All right, I'm going to get the stream posted in the Discord. If you guys want to follow along live, as always, you can do so. And again, what we're working on is specifically dates on the back end and the front end, working with dates and filtering out our documents or our records based on JavaScript dates. And so, you know, if you want to see records that are 5 days old or 10 days old or 365 days old, you can kind of provide like an age of the document, if you will, and say, okay, only show me records that have been created within the last day, kind of thing, or between, 24 hours ago, 1 day ago, and 5 days ago. And so we're gonna start in the database and kind of give all of our documents a creation date, and then begin on the back end. Once we hit the database, then we're going to get into Express and kind of show the code on the route side, and then we'll bring it forward into React and show that, along with, you guys might have seen in some of the prior labs, there's a dependency called Moment. Bless you. And Moment's a really great dependency on working with dates on the front end. It kind of simplifies JavaScript dates, and so I think you guys are going to like Moment in React. And so this is kind of the lab that's going to help you prepare for where you can enter the maximum age of a thing. In this case, we're working with bugs measured in days. So like, hey, I only want 10 days old. Give me all the bugs that have been created within the last 10 days. Or the opposite is the minimum age. Okay, well, give me all the bugs that are 10 days and older, so it's max age and min age, and we can call it what you will. But to kind of start with this, we need to work in the database. Now, as you know, my demo project is called Tailrunner, and the repo that you can clone. You can clone this folder, and I'll show you the working state and what it's doing right now. Everything is pushed onto the repo. So let me open this up. And yesterday we got all the filtering working minus the dates. And so let me zoom in on the code here a little bit. Boot up the back end. Switch terminals. Boot up the front end. And log in as my admin with a bad password. Again, that check mark saying that it met the front end validation rules. Probably can clean that up. But anyways, this is where it is right now, where we've got some filtering going on. So I could search by like Jane, right? And so I could search by my keywords if I want to find Pupper1 and Jane. Okay, so I've got some keyword searching going on. Right now it's all done on this search click. So if I want to find, I made all of my users either owners or customers, so I could find which ones I've classified as owner, which one is customers. Okay, so this is kind of filtering by a string. We've got sorting going on, so we could sort by first name. So kind of get the Evan in front of the Jane, in front of the John. Last name, or the classification, which you can't see their classification on the screen, but this is a classification sort. So that's the sorting. So we've got keyword search, we've got filtering, we've got sorting, And then we also did filtering based on a Boolean field. So I just either marked them active or not, true or false. And again, you don't see the data on the screen, but suffice to say, these are active accounts. And if I uncheck it, then it'll only show me the inactive accounts. So again, I probably just need to update these cards and show all the data to make that more clear. But just nonetheless, that's kind of the last thing that we left off here. And so that's where it is. Now we're going to add filtering by dates. And so to go to my database, in order to filter by dates, we have to seed the data in my Mongo database here. And I'm working with users. Oh, right, no. This is Tailrunner. Wrong database. Pet owners. So these are the records in the database. And they don't have a created on. And so, MDN JavaScript date time. Right? This is the date constructor. And there's a million ways to work with dates. And then a bunch of methods to work with dates. But keep in mind, it is a date object and it stores both dates and times. So year first, then month, then day, then the time of hours, minutes, seconds. So I need to seed this data and make sure to seed it properly. So, there's two places, right? Every new record, of course, I need to add like a created on property. So if I were to look at doing this in my pet owners, of course, if I create a new pet owner, and let me kind of start in the back end. Pet owner and dog owner. So this is my get route, which I'm going to work on. This is getting a pet owner by ID. So here's my owner. And suffice to say here, I have an owner. And I would say owner.created on, and this is going to default to today. And so now when I insert a new owner, it's going to have a created on property with a JavaScript date object that's going to default to basically right now. And so that date constructor should work that way. And I should have a register route up and running. Actually, my register route is for a different collection. But nonetheless, so that would be how we would, if I were to do a create operation. Let's see, do I have that feature? Yes, I do. Add pet owner. Okay. So let's add a new, because I forgot I did this. Alan, make something up. Rufius, whatever. Submit form. Okay, so there's Alan Barkley. And if I refresh my database, I should have 6 records. And now I've got Alan Barkley with a created on. And you could see today's the date. Cool. So then what's left is, well, either I delete these other records and reseed my data through my app, or I'm just going to manually add this created on and make sure that it matches that format of a JavaScript date. So I'm going to add a field created on and date 2024 12/9. And I'm just going to put the T, I'm going to put it at the same time, 14. Let's see if I can, 29. And it doesn't like my format. See, if I just, let me see if I can just copy and paste. Copy. Okay, I don't know where my typo was, but I'll just change it to 12/09. That's where my error is. 09 for the date instead of just the number 9. Okay, so what I want to do though is give myself a range of times. Like I created one document today, one yesterday. Let's do a month ago, and then we'll do 2 months ago, and kind of give myself a range of different times. So created on and we'll just do a month ago. And we'll do 2 months ago. And this is just to get us up and going, so the data doesn't have to be super precise on anything. So 9, and we'll do 08. So, you know, today, yesterday, a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, 4 months ago. And now all of my records have a created on date object in the JavaScript world. So that brings us to the back end and setting up the express route here. Now, some of you might have noticed this little piece here that was linked. And this is some of the challenge behind working with dates. And so this is just one way of starting to figure out, you know, if something was greater or less than, you know, 30 days ago. And so if you kind of see here, we start with today, and then you get rid of all the time, and you say, okay, well, let's make another variable equal to that date, which is, you know, still today though. And then you say, okay, set the date to 30 days, you know, get the date minus 30. And so there's some weirdness, as JavaScript is always hard to work with dates. And so this is just a little code chunk that kind of helped you come to the solution of getting the backend to figure out how to figure out 30 days ago. So let's bring that in and kind of make this more real. And so here, yesterday we started doing all this filtering. And now we're going to filter by like a min age and a max age. And I'm going to bring in some of that code that was in the document we just looked at. So I kind of spin up a date object, zero out all the hours and minutes, and then we create a new variable called past maximum days old, and then we set the date minus the max age. And so that was very similar to what we just did, and we did another one for the min age, so another variable. So we got two variables for the past maximum days old and the past minimum days old. And then I have some if statements. Let's say, okay, if there's a max and a min, then we update our query to include less than the minimum days old and greater than the maximum days old. Otherwise, if there's just a minimum, then we just have one of those queries. Otherwise, if there's just a max, then we just have the greater than. And so it always takes me, like when I'm solving this, it is always, you got to stop and kind of think a little critically about what we're doing here. But this is the short version of, finding these variables greater than or less than some number of days. Okay, so that updates our match stage, and we're already passing that through our pipeline and sending that into our database method. So let's kind of reboot the back end. And I'm pretty sure my class has already set this up on the back end before, so I'm just kind of walking you through the same logic that you've already solved for. So let's kind of open up Postman. And by default, we should tell us to log in. And so if we log in, kind of get all of our customers. There's all of our customers with Alan. So just do our filter by keywords. That's still working. So just testing those things. Min age. This is like the number of days. So minimally 2 days old. Like I would not expect. Again, if I uncheck this, we get all of our records. Created on was created today, Alan. But if I set minimum age to 2, I would not expect Alan back. And minimum age of 2, so this record is not 2 days old at minimum. So Alan is now gone. And just at a glance, it would be so helpful if it would just tell me how many objects were in here, so I don't have to manually count them. I can see the total document size is 1.7. So if I change that to a 1, again, Alan is still not 1 day old. So let me change this to a 2. My document size didn't really change there. Let me count. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. Seems about right, because we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 2 of those records were created today and yesterday, which are not, it's not minimally 2 days old. So to get 4 records back out of the 6, that's exactly what I would think. Now if I change that to 1, one, 2, 3, still get 4. Now if I, so this is the edge case where I would expect one more document to come back here, be it the one that was created yesterday. So Evan Gudmested 1, I would kind of expect Evan Gudmested 1 to come back here, but that's an edge case and he's not, meaning he's right on that boundary. He is 1 day old. Now if I say 0, he comes back. So it's kind of like a, we're missing those edge cases. And I think that's a flaw in my logic, is that this code works except for on edge cases. And I would think that less than or equal to, greater than or equal to 2, so it's missing those edge cases. So I will admit that there's a bug in there on those edge cases. Otherwise, mid-age is working. Now, max age is the other. And so if we're saying, hey, you have to at least be 2 days old. Now if I want to say, hey, maybe at most 10 days old. That's 1, 2 records, right? Which were the ones created today and yesterday. So at most, you're 10 days old, and that is returning the right results. If I kind of go down, if Evan was created yesterday, that's working. Again, that edge case. So yeah, that's getting min age and max age working minus the edge cases, which needs to be cleaned up. And I would dive a little bit deeper into troubleshooting my back end here to figure out why my query less than, the logic's almost reversed, less than the past minimum days old. It's you're flipping logic back and forth working with these dates. Anyways, that's getting the back end pretty well supported. Again, little bug in there to work through, but that gets the back end up and running. Now transitioning into the front end, that we can provide a field that sends over the min age and max age. So that's going to be in my front end, source, components, okay. So we're going to have a couple of hooks in React. And I'm just going to start them as empty strings for max age and min age. let's go down into my markup. Got our form. Div class row, div class row. Div class name row. And I've kind of got these code chunks, so to save a little markup time, just paste in these two calls, div class call, div class call. Let me kind of clean this up a little bit. Okay, we got a label for this minimum age and set the minimum age. Now the type is a number, and it's the same thing for maximum age. So let's tab that over, tab that over. So 2 columns, 2 HTML number controls, and when we change them, we set the hooks to the target's value. And like I like to do, I'll just go up here and put the max age, min age, just to get those numbers on the screen before we go sending them to the back end. Bless you. Kind of refresh this, and got a couple controls here. And getting that data on the screen just so it doesn't feel so abstract, so as actually see our variables changing their values. Okay. Then save that up. Now we send these over in our params. So we can do min age, max age, max age. Save that up. And so at minimum of 1 day old, and you see the same results, right? It chopped off the 2 results there, which is correct per the code that we have written. If I say, 35 days old, we lose another record. If I say something like 65 days old, we lose another, and you just kind of keep on working your way through. So minimum age is filtering records. Maximum age. Again, I don't know if this language is clear to an end user. What is minimum age and maximum age? I think it makes sense the way we framed it, but that doesn't mean it would make sense to an end user. So let's think again about maximum age. So at most, they're 2 days old. And so anything older than 2 days disappears off the screen. And so that's cool. And that pretty well runs up and down. Now, what's really interesting about this one particular lab, just totally a little one-off here. The first time I taught this class, the very first time I taught this class, I had a graduate go out, and he didn't work on React, but he worked in Angular. And so there's a learning curve to learn a similar framework, but different. And he came back and he said, what would have been really helpful if I would have learned searching and filtering and how to sort records. I said, yeah, that would have been really useful if you learned how to do that. Do you remember doing it? No, I don't remember doing it. Okay, you did. So, point being that graduate went out in the real world, worked in a similar framework but different, and had to do this, and even came back and gave me that little bit of feedback. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. So useful. So what's left? What's left to do? You might remember we set up paging and filtering, and that will be part of your final project rubric. Okay, now I'm not demonstrating how to do paging and paging and limits, right? So how many records per page and how many pages. And so that's one thing that I'm leaving off of this demo, and that will be, part of the final project. Okay, then the other thing that I didn't mention here is that I wanted to show permissions on the front end. And for example, right now, I've got a different user. And that user can view data, but that user cannot edit data, right? So what I want to do is I just don't even want to show them the edit button, right? And again, there's many ways you could go about doing this. My preferred method, if you look at the back end and how we handled permissions, I would say we got into the weeds with permissions. We set up permissions to be stored in our database. Users have roles. So here's our roles for our users. And so Evan here is an admin, but DPoll here is not an admin, he's just a customer. So if I look at what the roles can do, a customer can view data, and that's really, I just made that one up, can do a thing, but our admins can do more. And so what I don't want to do at this point is I just don't even want to show, if you don't have the role of admin, then I just don't even want to show you the button, right? So all I'm going to do on the front end, because, obviously I think one thought would be, well, I just want to send all the merged permissions. And this is something that I thought about doing, and you could go this route. And so if you kind of look at what we wrote, we have this database lookup where you find a user's role. So here's our user object. We fetch the roles for that user, and then we merge all of their permissions. So this permissions object is wrapped up in our token and our JWT token and sent to the front end, right? And so if I go here and I look at my cookie, my cookie it's called auth token. Let me look at this one more time. And this is essentially encoded. That's what JWT obviously does. It kind of encrypts it. So it encodes your permissions. And so what some of you have done is you're like, hey, is there a way to decode JWT on the front end? And if there is, should we do that? And that's what I did. At first, I was like, yeah, let's just decode JWT. And it turns out there's a package for that. So So npm.js, and I believe Henry. Henry looked up JWT decode, and it provides, once you decode it, then you have access to the data. And I've done that. But I understand that to be bad practice. And so but that is one potential. And I say it's bad practice, and as I do that, I'm double checking myself. Use decoding as a convenience, not security. It's fine to decode a token in React for non-sensitive tasks like usernames or roles. Okay. Like what we're doing. So use libraries like JWDecode to decode the token. And so there's that. So you could decode that token, and there's literally the code that would do that for you. You need to provide your secret and that kind of thing. Additionally, when you log in the user or create the user, you could send the roles. I don't think I am sending the roles. Let me go log in my user. I am sending the roles. Okay, so there's my roles, right? So when I log in, let me go to my login route. So let's revisit this. So definitely the back end is sending forward the roles. I don't know that since I have these roles, I think I'm storing those roles in my auth hook. So let's look at that. Source, login form. Okay, so we got set auth coming in. And that's sending all of the data. So the data includes this: your email, your token, and your roles. So one thing that I did here, I said if there's auth, you welcome the user. This is going to be ugly because I don't think it really needs to, let's see. This is not how I would keep this, right? So let's just throw that in. Now we're going to need to like loop over these roles because it's an array of strings, right? So it's role singular, role dot okay, so that's an array. Of course, this one-liner here. see, for each role. Let me get my syntax right on this. Right, in React you gotta map it. That makes more sense. And there's a key, which is the index, and we print out the role. Okay, so I just want to put the roles in the nav bar is really all I'm doing. And I chose the wrong loop. I got to remember, React, you need to map. That's the correct way of mapping over the roles. So let's now refresh and refresh. Okay, so formatting aside, you could see that he is a customer. And you can see that Evan is a customer and an admin. Again, formatting aside. Cool. And so now you just write a ternary operator. Which is this auth hook. So this is on, where are we going to write this? This is the pet owner list. Okay. Scrolling down, the pet owner item. Okay, so we need to send auth down into pet owner item because this is where we see the edits and the deletes. But we have to get the auth variable down into pet owner item. So this is managing state, and you're managing it with props and sending it, piping it down, if you will. And it starts all the way up here at app.jsx, which is where our auth variable is. And we need to send auth down to the pet owners. It is already in the pet owner list. So there's auth. So now from there we send it down into the item. Pet owner item. Auth equals auth. So we send it down one more level into the item. And here, so mdn array.includes and so here's your array called pets, and if pets includes cat, it returns true. So I would say auth.includes admin and now let's see, we need a single parent on all of that markup, so let's wrap all of that. And fix my syntax. Oh. And admin, auth that includes admin and, yep, okay. Now, you're not happy, okay. It says auth includes is missing in props validation. That's a linter, okay. So now if you're not an admin, you don't see the edit and the delete button. If I log out, log in, okay, so I am an admin, so I do see edit and delete. If I log out, let's see, customer, let's see. Oh, wait a minute, it's auth. So that's clearly not working. Dot role. It's auth dot role. Let me go back to my nav bar and see auth dot role. That's what it is. If the auth role includes admin, I'm really curious. Maybe I just didn't even refresh the page. That's probably what happened. Didn't refresh. There we go. Now Don Pohl is not an admin, so he doesn't see the button. And okay, so this is crashing, cannot read properties of roles. So you need to make this a, if there's a role, then you can read it. So this is kind of back here in my nav bar. If there's a role, then you map it. But if there is no auth, then you skip it. So this basically, this kind of makes this an if-else. If there's not an auth, then you can't map it, and that's why that's crashing. And so now you see there is no auth, so it's not crashing. So Evan at rankin.edu, 12345. Okay. So I'm an admin, so I can see the edit and the delete buttons. And if I log out, it's going to be the same thing here. If there's an auth, if there's a role, map it. Go here, refresh. Evan at Rankin. Log in, log out. It's having I think I did this in two places. So here is on the nav bar. Let me fix this bug. This is called optional chaining. So my syntax is right. You put it right in front of, oh, this is in, put this here. Auth role includes. Maybe it's somehow getting that. I wouldn't expect that. Let's boot that up. There we go. I just had to put that optional chaining on both places. Evan at rankin.edu. Log in. I see the buttons. There we go. I don't see the buttons. Okay, so that's bringing permissions forward to the front end, which I know is something that you guys will have to do. And for now, that's where I'm going to stop today and let you guys code your final projects.